All right. How many excited to learn today? Part two. And we're going in a little bit deeper, a little bit heavier on some actual work. Somebody say work. So yesterday we talked about exposure, being exposed to people that are doing things on a higher level. And this is what I've come to learn is that we can actually give you everything and say, use this, but if you don't execute, what they say, just run the play. If you don't execute, you will still end up where you started. So that's why it's important, everybody, to make sure that you are not only taking information, because information without implementation is just what? Procrastination. And so I'm actually going to talk about that this afternoon. And so I'm giving you a little bit of everything. Hopefully, if you haven't noticed by now, you all are getting things that are dealing with every aspect of you. Not only your business, but also you. Your mindset, your planning, your thought process, how you take time to have what we call CEO time, how you actually allow your thoughts to speak louder than any voice that's out there in the world. Because God uses and speaks to us in a special way, and it's important that we take time not to confuse the other voices that are out there with the voice he's given us. Somebody ought to say amen. All right, so day two, we're talking about execution today. And so in your playbook, you probably want to grab a pen. If you don't have a pen, I think there was one in your swag bag, but you definitely want to take that out because we're going to actually do some work because it's important. It is essential that when you leave here, that you have your play in hand, right? Your play in hand. So your play in hand. So if you open it up, day two, execution, you have a spot there. You can take some notes, but I want to talk about some of these things, and some of you that have been in our community a while have heard some of this before, but I want to unpack these things in a different level. So when we start thinking about our strategic plan and how we're going to go through 2025, what I've noticed, not only just with other businesses, but what I've noticed for myself, is that if I do not specifically write out a plan, I would do everything else except execute what I wanted to do. If we try to go off what's in our heads, are y'all listening to me? Y'all, yes, yes? If we just try to go off what's in our heads, right? Just what I think I'm going to do, I have this plan, it really oftentimes never really comes to fruition, and definitely not the way it should. So what I learned, and so a lot of people ask me, Mike, what happened? Well, I got to be careful with what I say, because some people will ask me, Mike, what happened when you went from, you had your major growth spurt? Like, what happened? What changed? A couple of things changed. My partnership agreements and arrangements changed. I also, I talk about this in one of my sessions, but I also got new partners, but I also got a business coach. That made a huge difference, because it wasn't until I got a business coach that I actually was more intentional on working on my business. My business coach was able to see things I couldn't see. And so at the time, she would come into the office. I think sometimes she asked us more questions than anything. It's like, why are you asking us all these questions? But what I do recognize is that every time she would say, okay, we're going to set up a follow-up meeting, there were things I had to do. And if it wasn't for that, I just wouldn't have got it done, right? So that's why it's really, really important to have someone else that's going to help you through that process. Another thing I remember, even though, and some of you've heard this too, even though we had hired a consultant in order to help us with our systems, putting our systems in place, our job descriptions and all that stuff you seen, right? When we hired somebody to help us, they gave us all these templates, and I ended up hiring a part-time, well, he became full-time, but he started part-time. I hired somebody, and he started coming in, helping me put all this documentation together. And I was like, this is good. So in some aspect, we started working on the business, but I really wasn't working on the business. Let me kind of help you understand what I mean. I started working on the tactics, but I left out the strategy. That was so good. What you mean? We started working on how we get it done. And so there's a book, I want you to write it down. It's called Who Not How. It's a great book. Who Not How. I just read this book this year, and it is a game changer. Who Not How. The overall concept of Who Not How is somewhat what Scott talked about yesterday. And I know, Raquel, you missed that piece, but we'll make sure you all have that recording. Scott talked about creating the box and then finding who fits the box. Now, if you read the book, Who Not How, you would think it's somewhat contradictory, because Who Not How focuses on who that person is, but you got to have the box before you find the person. So what do you mean by the box? You have to identify what you actually need to execute that thing that you just thought of. And if they don't fit the box, they're not the person. Are y'all with me? Yes. This is good stuff, and this wasn't in my notes. Yes. All right. So anytime it's not in my notes, that's the Lord leading me. And that's probably something you need to hear. So I think, Julian, you asked, well, how do you create the box? I think you asked about the box, right? So how do you even know what the box looks like? How do you even know what you need? I think you asked me this. You asked me this last night. How do I know who to hire first, right? And so, and I was sharing with him how you need somebody that has some insight, or you're gonna take some time, sometimes more time than you probably should, trying to figure out who should you hire next, or you're gonna make the mistake and hire the wrong person first. And so being able to have somebody say, and I talked to, let me just go into that. I'm so far off. I'm so far off script. But Edward was like, how do I know who to hire next? And I said, well, I will ask you a whole bunch of questions. And it will be based on what are your strengths, especially when you're starting out and you're starting to build your company out, you're trying to add a team, and you know you need more help. And all of us, human nature says, let me just hire somebody to help me that can offload some of this stuff, right? And we normally hire admin. My business coach says never hire admin first. Always hire skill. And I found that to be so true, found that to be so relevant, because, watch this, admin cannot make you money. Most times, thank you, baby. Most times, admin costs you money. They're not always an asset. Most times, it's like that car you probably drive when you got it off the lot. Instantly, it becomes a liability. So what do you mean, Mike? Let me help you. Most admins can't make a decision for your business. Most admins do not ever have a level of authority that they can drive KPIs, key performance indicators. Most admins need to be told everything to do. Most admins lack the ability to critically think on their own. So now that's a requirement on you to either, number one, have all your systems in place that tells them exactly what to do. So you can take a high schooler bring them into your business, and they know exactly what to do with some training. If you don't have that in place, you just wasted money. Because all they can do is help you get tasks done by you giving them specific details, instructions all the time. And what does that lead to? More frustration, more headache, more work. It's like, I hired you to take off some of this work, and now I feel like I'm doing more work, right? Because I have you instead of you helping me. And so what happens is, if we hire wrong, we actually add another level of stress, another level of work and pressure to our life that we didn't need, versus taking the time and saying, hey, let me make sure I just save up enough money so I can hire a skill and hire the right person. Are y'all with me? Yes, yes? That now I can bring in somebody that can make a decision for me. So I would say, I said it depends. What's your skill base? Are you operational? Meaning, are you the person that's in construction already that kind of knows what happens in the field? Are you more of a superintendent where you can oversee the subcontractors already? Or are you the person that can manage the projects from a paperwork standpoint and make sure all the contracts are issued? Or are you the person that, hey, you like to talk, you got the gift of gab, right? You're going to go out and sell your business, you're going to sell your company and get more sales? Or maybe are you just more administrative? What is your gift? And then I would say, okay, maybe you need to hire that next person that's going to help run your job. So let's just say, for an example, everybody say execution.
Execution.
Oh, that was so low energy. Everybody shout execution.
Execution.
So if, for instance, you're strong selling, I would say you need a strong superintendent or project manager. And your first hire should be someone that could do both. They're strong in both areas. They can manage or they can be a field supervisor. If you're strong in the field, but not strong at sales, I would say initially hire someone to help you with sales first. I believe every CEO should sell their own business until you get big as Scott, and then you can hire everybody. Right? When you're doing $3 billion worth of work, you no longer need to sell anymore. Now you ensure that everybody follows vision. That becomes your new job. But when you're not there yet, right? You need to generate enough money that it's going to take care of overhead and all those things. And then after you continue to hire more and more people, then you can get there to where you can just think vision and strategy all day and train and teach people the culture. But until you get to that point, you have to continue to say, okay, how can I build this business to start making more money? Because that's the first thing you have to do. All right, y'all with me? Everybody got that?
Yes.
So that's not in the book, okay? All right, that's not in the book. So I want you to start thinking about your strategy to build your company. So in our program, what we do, we give you kind of like a roadmap for 3 years of, hey, what's the strategy? What's the goal? Who should I hire first? Right? And that's really, really important, because sometimes we can get so distracted and we end up hiring the wrong person first, and it takes us longer to grow. Are y'all with me? Who want to grow faster? Yes. Right? Or not necessarily, when I say faster, faster than maybe just going too slow, but not too fast where you're not prepared. You want to be optimal, right? You want to be optimal. Because fast growth without preparation leads to devastation and disaster. Okay? All right. Anybody have any questions? Yeah. Anybody? No? All right. So in the construction space, and I know we have people in different industries, but believe it or not, most likely it impacts yours as well. So I'm on page 22. It doesn't have a page number, but page 23 does, and just flip back over. So in the construction space, you know, there's different markets, what we call markets. And I talk about this a lot. I know Glenn's been on my 3-day challenge. Edward's been in the 3-day challenge. Were you on it? No, you haven't been there yet. All right. So on the 3-day challenge, I'll talk about the different markets, specifically in construction. And so I talk about my journey through the process and our growth, how, of course, I came up through the industry as an estimator. So that was, I graduated college, 97. I went to work for a construction company as, a junior estimator, I think they called me. And so I began to price jobs. That was my job. So everything I've done since then has been all around ever pricing the project, putting numbers together, right? That's why I normally can put numbers together very, very quickly. And so over time, I went from one company, I went to the next company. They said, hey, Michael, here at this drywall company, we want you to manage every job you win through your estimating. That's when I learned project management. And then over time, as I continue to get older in the business, I started seeing things in the field. So I started getting field perspective. When we started ACY, I like to do a little bit of everything, but I still pretty much bid and estimated all of our projects myself. When we grew and got bigger and bigger, then I started hiring people because I didn't have time to do that anymore. All right. So you will see over time you will grow, but identify your strengths. But there is these markets. When we started, we had a relationship with the company. My former business partner had worked for a guy, and he said, hey, I want to help you all. OCPS has opportunities where you can partner with us, right? And you have no risk. You can be a partner. You can earn some fee, and we can help you build your company. So OCPS had this program. So we were awarded that first program, and then that job was over. Then it was like, okay, what we're going to do next? Then we had to find somebody else. Then we finally found another partner, and I've been partnering with them going on 15 years now, right? I know Rico knows them. We've been partnering with them for 15 years now. So one of my strategies, everybody say, what is it, Mike?
What is it, Mike?
One of my strategies is one source of your revenue income should be partnering with somebody that's larger than you. Okay, since whether you heard this before, right? That should be one stream. So even though you would do your own work, find your own clients, how can you find and leverage another relationship to pursue things that are larger than what you're doing right now? That's every industry, right? All of you all should be doing that. And so Scott talked about it. You got to find more than one way to make money. You got to find, it doesn't have to be, because a lot of us, man, who I heard talk about this? I think it was people in the educational space. A lot of us will try to say, well, I want to do a little bit of my business. I want to do a little bit of real estate, and I want to do a little bit of stocks, and I want to do some Forex, and you start diversifying. And that's not bad because that's your personal. I think Chris talked about that. He says that the construction business doesn't do well. I still have my own personal stuff that I do. I believe in that. You should do that. We do that. Okay. However, when you start thinking about how you diversify your actual business, it should be something that's tangible. Like what's in reach. And one thing is partnering with somebody else that's larger than you is definitely in reach. So now you have to say, okay, how can I find that? Where do I go search for that? So that's looking for sometimes your competitors in the industry. Sometimes it's your competitors. Stop looking at all your competitors as your enemy.
Come on.
Right? Rico, because he's been around me, we've known each other probably almost 20 years now. So I could have looked at Jason Albu as a competitor, right? Because matter of fact, even with Disney, we still compete to this day. But I got to know Jason as a person and as a friend. I consider him my brother. He's my Brazilian brother, right? And so over a period of time, what happened was we developed a relationship, and one day there was an RFP and we said, I said, well, this job's too big for me to go after it by myself with all this stuff I have going on. And we were just talking. And I was like, hey, what can I do? Who can I find to pursue this? Because they won't award it, it's just me. And I realized just because I had the experience on the prior job doing the same thing, I said, who can I partner with? First of all, it has to be somebody that has same core values as me. I'm teaching good already. Mm-hmm. What do you mean, same core values? Like, if I feel like I can't trust them, if I feel like they're going to run off with the money, if I feel like we're going to get in an argument and I'm going to want to cut them, you know what I'm saying? If it's a situation where I don't really like them, it's probably not a good thing to do. It's no different than marriage. Right? It has to be the same way. Like, I really want to be around them. If it's somebody that you don't really want to be around, it's probably not going to be a good relationship. And so when we talk now, I can't remember if I brought it up or he brought it up. I think he brings it up in the podcast. But I remember they were trying to get OCPS work on their own, and they couldn't. He said, Mike, I'm tired of submitting. Every time I submit, we come in like 6th or 7th. And he was like, well, I know you know how to do it. Because we were winning projects and we had a continuous service. And so we had a ton of stuff on our resume. I said, okay, let's just do a JV and let's pursue it. And so we did the JV. We knew everything about the job because of our experience. We did the job, completed the job. Everything went well. Great relationship. Still have a great relationship to this day. So you have to leverage relationships even when it looks like they could be your competitor, because you never know when you possibly could be working together on something that's larger than what you already doing. Are y'all with me? So always be open to that. Don't be closed-minded and be like, you know how sometimes we go through a job walkthrough and the other people that are pricing the job, if you ever go through what's called a pre-bid walkthrough, or in your case, Isabel, you may end up going to what's called a pre-submittal meeting where before you submit a proposal, they may have a meeting to go through the proposal and other people that's going to submit may be there. Take the time. Hey, how y'all doing? Because, you know me, I want to post up on the wall, right? And not say anything. But hey, how y'all doing? Get to know even your competitors. It's okay. Everybody say it's okay.
It's okay.
Now remember, Michael told you this. It's okay. Because you never know the power of the rooms that God places you in and the people he will bring into your life, but you just close yourself off to a larger opportunity because you saw somebody as a threat instead of an advocate. Are y'all with me? So as soon as you close your mind off to see them as an enemy, you just killed the relationship. You just killed the opportunity. You just killed the possibility just because your mind said they're a threat. Somebody say, wow.
Wow.
Instead of thinking like that, say, I wonder if it's possible that we could get together and pursue something even larger. Instead of the big boys coming in and taking the job, how about we get a team of little boys and go after it too? So that's what Brian and I did with JCB. His mom started their company here locally, and they've been around 30 years. And I realized when we were pursuing Jones High School athletic fields, we had a Jones High School job we had recently completed, but the job was too big. It was mostly site work, new buildings and new construction. JCB primarily does site work like all the time. I knew they wanted a black contractor. I'm like, all the boxes are being checked. So it only made sense for us to try to partner together to pursue it. And we won it. It was a tough job. We barely made it through it, but we got it done. So I want you to start thinking about who can you identify as possible leads that you could be partnering with, right? So I want you to take a second, think about that, write it down, put it in your notes. Who can you potentially partner with that's out there that you may already have relationships with? Think about it. I want you to write it down, right? Every industry is like this. Every single industry is like this. Every single industry is like this. People partner together in order to go after something bigger. You had a question?
Yeah, you partnered with Williams. Started JV with Williams and partnered with.
No, so I had 2 true joint ventures that we've done thus far. One with JCB, Brian, and one with Jason Albu with Albu and Associates. True 50-50 joint ventures. So we set up a whole separate company, which each one of our companies own 50% of that joint venture. I love joint ventures if you have the right partner. I love them. I know those that's been in my 3-day challenge know why. Anybody remember? Anybody remember? They forgot. Because all of the profits and proceeds hit your business books as pure profit. So let me help you understand. So let's say, for instance, company A, company B gets together. We create a joint venture, right? Raquel, you with me? Yes. We create a joint venture. So that is a third company, right? It's its own separate entity. Everything that comes into that JV, whatever expenditures hit that JV, whatever is left is what? Profit. Y'all with me? Then that profit, because most likely that when that joint venture ends, all the proceeds, all the profits now go to whatever the split is, right? Are y'all with me still? Yeah. So let's say the split is $100,000, $50,000 to me, $50,000 to them. That automatically now hits ACY books as additional profit, even though I had my other revenues that were coming in. So my revenue really only increased by the same profit amount. Are y'all with me? I'm gonna say it again. My revenue only increased by that same profit amount. But did that help my business or hurt it? Yeah. It helped it significantly, because now it just bumped my bottom line up. And so the banks love that. The bonding companies love that. So now we see this as another source of income that had no risk at all. So it's basically like just infusing money back into your company.
So the joint venture, there's not a prime really, as far as the 2 companies.
No, that joint venture is the prime.
So you partnered with Williams.
So, right. So that's not a joint venture. My partnership with a Williams company is what we call an association agreement. So we do a separate agreement for every project that we do, but in it, that agreement tells us how our partnership arrangement will be. It will state if I'm gonna have staff on the job, if I don't have any risks associated with the job, what percentage of the fee we will be sharing, all of that. We go into details for all of that. So people are part of our program, our mentorship, they get copies of all of that, right? So our JV agreements, our association agreements, you get copies of all of that, and we'll put it together for you. So if you get ready to do these things, you don't have to go and try to figure out what kind of agreement you need. We just, boom, we put it together for you. All right. So it's really, really important to understand you got to find multiple ways to bring money into your business. Are y'all with me? And people say, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? I'm telling you, I'm giving you the strategy, right? So what are some other things you could do? Another thing I focus on, Rico, and I know you have this background. For the longest period of time, my former business partners and I, we struggled with, should we self-perform or not? And I had some experience working for drywall companies. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. They're like, no, we don't have enough money. And so over a period of time, once I was able to make my own decisions, I started doing it. Was it tough financially? Of course it was. But there's some things I've learned now, tricks of the trade, that will make it more manageable if you're able to do it, such as factoring. such as lines of credit. There are other funding sources, or, I think Glenn was sharing with some of you all some different ways you can use your insurance policies, certain ones if you need to pull money, be your own bank. There's so many different avenues to utilize in order to fund self-perform work. But there's some strategies I really think you need to just sit down with. So first of all, we talked about partnering with somebody larger than yourself, joint venture companies, also self-performing work. So whether you're the prime or not, you should also look at subcontracting opportunities on larger projects. All right. So Rico, for me, what we did, it was by the grace of God. We recognized, hey, we want to continue to grow and expand. So we replicated what we did in Orange County. We went to Osceola County. We went to Seminole County. Right. So we continue to expand regionally based on what we did in one area. I would say focus on one area, master it, then do the same thing somewhere else. So before the pandemic happened, I was going to replicate everything I did in Florida. I was going to take it to Nashville and Columbia, South Carolina. Why? Those markets were the same as Orlando. So you all heard Scott talk about that yesterday, right? It was like, I have to go where, number one, I can have the same type of work that's within our business model. So that's what I identified. So that was going to be our next expansion. So self-perform. Somebody say why? Because you have higher margins. So if you operate as a prime, your margin's going to be a lot thinner, right? Because that's what the market says. Market says, depending on the size of the job, your margins can be anywhere from 2 to about 10%, the highest as a GC, as a prime. That's market in the state of Florida, right? Anybody agree with that? It was like 2%. Those are like $300, $400, $500 million contracts. The profit margin is only about 2-3%. It used to be, at least. Scott could have confirmed that, but he told you all that big Jacksonville job, right? 4%. That's pretty normal. So the larger the project, normally the fees are a lot smaller. Okay. If you're anywhere between, let's say, $500,000 up to, I don't know, maybe 5 million, you're still in the fee range between anywhere between 5 and maybe 9%, right? As the prime. Okay. So I realized, I was like, number one, my bonding company don't like those thin margins, because you have one hiccup, you just lost all your money, right? One thing goes wrong, you done. So I said, I got to do something else, hence JVs, right? So all that cash just came into the company as pure profit. It enhanced my bottom line. So instead of having 4%, now maybe I have 5 or 6. Are y'all with me? All right. And so when I started looking at subcontract work, I recognized, I was like, I can bid a job at 20-25% as a sub. And I realized from working for a drywall company, that's what we were bidding the jobs at when I estimated them. The lowest we would do a markup was 18%. We never went lower than that. I was like, why not do that? Right? Am I right, Rico? So I said, I'm not going to walk away from my bread and butter, because this is what I do, but I'm enhancing what I do with something else. So some of you all may be new in your business, and I would say, hey, you don't have to start trying to do all these things, but you should plan it and be strategic about how you're going to increase it over time.
That's good.
Are y'all with me? So even though you may not be there yet, why aren't you still thinking about it and say, okay, 2026, I'm executing on this. 2027, I'm executing on that. Are y'all with me? So now you have a strategic plan for the next 3 years, exactly what you're going to do every year. I already know the play. Then at the end of maybe 2024, into 2025, you go back to that plan. It's like, this didn't work, that didn't work. So you make tweaks, but you still have a plan. Are y'all with me? Yeah. So what I recognize, y'all, when I didn't have a plan, I never executed. So for years, we had in our business plan, hey, we want to do $15 million a year, but we really never knew how because we didn't have a strategic plan every year to tell us what to do. So we had a thought, no strategy, and no tactics. Are y'all with me? That's why it's important. Once you get your strategic plan, now you need somebody that's going to say, Sensuela, what's going on? Have you been calling such and such? Have you gone and reached out to these people? We talked about, how are you going to reach out to this company? Have you gone ahead and joined this association, right? Have you done these things to keep you accountable to make sure you're hitting it so you can actually accomplish your goals? Because none of us, I don't know about y'all, but I'm a little fluffy. I like to eat. As my dad would say, I got a sweet tooth, Julian. And I don't know what a sweet tooth is. It's like, never mind. But what I realized is that when I got a trainer and I go to the gym and I want to do them 5 reps and go to the next thing, the trainer say, give me another one. Give me 5 more. I'm like, 5 more? What you talking about? I already struck. Okay. All right. So self-perform work. You gotta add that to your toolkit. And then there's sometimes what we call a hybrid model where you may be the prime, but you can also sub some of the work back to yourself. Did you all hear Chris talking about how he was able to award his own company, a $4 million contract or something? Like, think about it. Now you giving your own other companies, if you decide to go that way, other opportunities. So start thinking about that type of growth and that type of expansion. Are y'all with me? So all these markets that are here on this page, we started with K through 12, and we recognize, okay, there's nothing different from the work we're doing at the schools from the work that's required at a college or a university. So we leverage our resume. And so, Rico, you'll realize this is that some agencies or some institutions will say, well, have you done college work before? It's like, well, how can I do it if I never get the chance? Right? Right? And that's true. However, I had the realization that drywall is drywall. I don't care where you put this drywall at. It's the same everywhere it goes. Right? So what makes it different? Maybe the logistics, maybe the owner, maybe the schedule, right? But it's still drywall. Tile is tile. Wherever you go, tile is this. It's just tile, right, Rico? So why I can't do work at a college? It's still tile. If it's a chilled water system, it's the same chilled water system at a college as at a high school. So what I recognize, I have to now speak the language to help owners see it's all still the same. So if I have the experience, even though it was on a high school or middle school or elementary, how does that now translate to higher education? So maybe there's some nuances with logistics, but the work is the same. So if I can demonstrate that I can do this work, that gives me more credibility. Now I can deal with the logistics and say, okay, what are the issues that you normally have, being that you are a university, right? So maybe, or if you were Disney, like we talked about yesterday when we talked with the folks from Disney, maybe there's some things we have to deal with that we don't normally deal with. So that's a separate discussion. So let's talk about that, right? If I have to come in third shift, or I have to be badged, or I have to, have background checks for all my staff, like we did when we worked, I forget the place name, down there off of Kirkman and I drive area, Lockheed, when we worked for Lockheed Martin, right? We had to be badged and we have to go through security checks and all this other stuff. Like that's just logistics. But the metal's the same, the electrical's the same for the most part. So now I need to demonstrate. I've done this before. So that's why I push my R3 framework, relationships, resume, resources, right? And I know Glenn, he heard me talking about the importance of your resume and having project sheets. And man, Glenn hopped on that thing and got his project sheets done, sent them to me. I sent them back, said, yeah, do this, change this, and it looked awesome. But now think about the credibility that gives you to take that to anybody else that needs your service. I can do it. Now, all of a sudden, that speaks volumes. So now you find yourself being able to grow beyond just one industry to the next.
That 3R, again, 3R, you said.
3R framework, yeah. Relationships, resume, resources. So I usually teach out of 2 frameworks. I have an S3 framework and an R3 framework. R3 I just gave you. My S3 framework is sales, strategies, and systems. I believe in business with those 6, that's what you need. Without those, it's really, really hard to grow. Go ahead, Rico.
With the project, did you ever come across a situation, like you say, you described in the project, like I said, college is no different than OCPS work.
You had to work this work.
And I'm trying to think, I think it was some accounting jobs we were looking at. We could have managed, done the job easy, but they had a minimum, like, degree project,
That was similar?
that
Yeah.
you had to have.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had to been in a situation where you had to talk your way.
No,
get past
no, a great question.
We couldn't put it in.
No, a great question. Great question. And see, that's why, like, having somebody to give you the insight on that is really, really important, right? Because when you receive these proposals, normally what happens, you just see the language and you get stuck and you get affixed on exactly what it says, right? That's what I'm trying to explain to you. You get so fixed. Okay, it says I have to have 3 projects that are similar, and I have to have completed in the last 5 years, right, or something like that. Well, first of all, if you don't have it, I would just submit it anyway and see if you can get feedback, and even a meeting after the selection, even if you're unsuccessful, at least you get feedback on what you could do differently. Because that happened to us, I was able to get that feedback. In most cases, that client told me when I started showing them, hey, we've done this, they were like, oh, well, you really did meet the qualifications. It's just the way you explained it. So a lot of times we miss opportunities because we don't know how to communicate and educate. So I have to demonstrate to this client, I can do this work. I've done it. Let me show you how. Let me show you what we did. So you have to be very specific, right? It's the same thing with the GC application to the state. They're going to ask you, you have to demonstrate that you've completed so many projects where you have structural experience, you got this type of experience, and you actually going to have to think. Because most likely you do have the experience, but you're not really thinking about it and how you can communicate that experience. So to answer your question, Rico, that's what oftentimes people don't understand, how to translate what they actually have so that client can actually see that you actually have the experience to do that work. So like I said, I separate the work from the logistics, totally different things. The logistics is specific to that entity. The work is the work. If I demonstrate I can do the work, we can talk through the logistics based on what you require. So that means I must know what they require and I must speak to it. If you have badging, this is how we will handle badging. This will be our process for badging. If you have third shift work and I have to do scheduled deliveries for concrete or certain things, this is how we'll address that. So you have to speak to, you have the experience to address those things, because most people are going to leave that out. And then we're like, well, they never worked for a school before. How do we know they know how to respond? But when you start bringing up the issues that could come up and you start talking about how you can address it, they're like, oh, they don't have it on their resume they've done at school, but I can tell they're ready because they already know the issues we have and how to deal with it. That's how you deal with that. Does that make sense? You have to actually address their common problems. You have to address how you will provide a solution to their common problems. And when they see that, it's a done deal. They realize, no, Michael actually has to work. No, Rico actually has the work experience. Does that make sense? Really, really important. Okay, so all these different industries, I will always tell you, well, pick one. Just pick one. Start there. And then over time, put it in your strategic plan. How do you want to grow? So what's your next move? Right? So Sensuela, like you're doing a lot of single families now. So what's your next move? Is it going to be a neighborhood or is it going to be multifamily? What would be your next move? And you say, okay, well, I may not be ready right now, but maybe in 2 years, the goal is to be here. So you have to start thinking that now. Like, don't wait and say, I want to plan out the whole year. No, don't do that. You got to start thinking what Scott said, the infinity. You got to start thinking big picture down the road so you can actually know where your head is. See, anytime we use a GPS, we always put the end destination and it gives us the turns. Most of us, we want to get things turn by turn instead of putting in the end destination first.
That's
Are y'all with? Oh, that was so good. Okay. All right. So let me give you this. All right. We're still on the same page. We're still on the same page. I need a clock. That's what I need. I need a clock. All right. Differentiators. So when we talked about marketing, and some of that's on this page, I gave you all yesterday the acronym SAVE. We talked about marketing, how you're going to market your business. You need to have SAVE. Some of that's on this page. S, solutions. A, access. V, anybody remember the V? Value. Then E is what? Education. So when we're talking about marketing your business, number one, you got to provide solutions to problems. What is the solution you're providing? So everybody that's in here, your core business, whatever that is, you think that's the solution, right? Most of us think that's the solution. But that usually doesn't have an emotional tie or connection with people. What do you mean, Mike? And I said this in one of our sessions. I said, most government agencies are not just looking for another contractor. I don't know if you all heard Alec from Disney talking about it yesterday. He said, we got all this work coming. And we know that the people that's been out there with us for years not going to be able to handle all that work. I'm thinking to myself, they probably will want to try. But that's not his pain point. His pain point is they don't want to give one person all that work and they have a failure. His pain point is they feel more comfortable spreading it out a little bit more. That's the pain point. Are y'all with me? So sometimes we thinking we're solving the problem, but is that the real problem they have? The other problem, I don't know if y'all heard this, but I think you asked the question. Because you said, so y'all just another cheap owner. But I know where you was coming from, though, right? But think about it. At the end of the day, Disney is in business to make money. And all of us are the same. We all shop. Every time you go buy something, you're not looking for the most you can pay. Right? Come on, we're all consumers. You're not looking for the most you can pay, right? When we think about things, you're not going around, well, let me see. You know, you're gonna shop it to see where can you get a better deal. Are you gonna go in the store? You're gonna shop on Amazon, find it online. Maybe you go to Shein, right? All these different things.
But it's just like with OCPS, like you get what you think.
Yeah, you do get what you.
All about the kid. This is what it
Well,
all
let,
about the kids and the
well, I understand it, but let me help you understand. At the end of the day, they have an objective, right? Same way we do as consumers. If I want a pair of shoes, my objective is to get a pair of shoes, right? It doesn't mean I want to pay the most for it. I want to get the best price I can get.
That's right.
It's just human nature, right? And so I realized maybe I get better service going somewhere. If I go to a luxury place, I'm going to enjoy things a little bit different, right? And so maybe I'm willing to pay more for that. But when it comes to that, I'm still going to shop that. Okay. Because you have to recognize that price is something that everybody wants to get the best, because everybody wants to have more money left, but still get what they want. So we have to realize that's just human nature. That's just being a consumer. So understand that you may not always be able to compete on price, but somebody, because they want to work with you, will pay your price. All right. So today, and I'm going to talk about it, some of you all will work with me. Some of you all won't. Some of y'all like, Mike, you cost too much. But I got to be okay with that. Because the people that want to work with me going to want to work with me regardless what my price is.
I like that.
Right? And so we have to remind ourselves for that. So don't look at it as, okay, y'all just another cheap. No, they want to get the best price like everybody else. And so I understand that. Does it make it tough on us sometimes? Absolutely. Because we're just looking at it from the position of our business, not from their side, because they're trying to get the best deal so they can give money to their shareholders, because that's who they have to answer to. So I realize that everybody wants a good deal, but that's not really the problem. So you have to identify what's their problem and what's the solution I'm bringing. So somebody say differentiators.
Differentiators.
So what makes your company different from anybody else that you're able to provide solutions to their actual problems? So I listed some differentiators on the sheet. Some of y'all want to consider this. Definitely, Sensuela, you definitely want to consider this. Not just being a contractor, but I'll be able to carry the design. I'll be able to give you your pricing and build it. So now maybe a differentiator for you is not you're just a contractor that's going to build it, and they still have to go out and find an architect. They still have to go out and get an engineer. You say, oh, just come to me. I'll handle all that for you. Somebody say differentiator.
Differentiators.
I just eliminated at least 60, 70% of the market. Because some people say, I'm just a contractor. Ma'am, just give me the drawings and I'll build whatever you want, right? And most contractors are like that. I don't want to do it. No, just give me some drawings. When you get the drawings, come back to me. But being a differentiator may mean, no, just come to me. I got you. You just talk to one person. we'll have our own architect. We have everybody, the whole team, everything you need. Just come to me. Okay. I'm telling you every time. Somebody say differentiators.
Differentiators.
Maybe sustainable building practices, right? So when you start getting into energy, when you start looking at corporations that highly prioritize social responsibility, they don't want to just hire a regular GC. They want to hire someone. You're recycling the right way. You're eliminating waste the right way. You're using electric vehicles and not gas. You're doing all these different things. So think of things you can do, not to just be just like everybody else, right? Advanced technology integration. There's so much technology out there. I saw something, I don't know if you've seen it, Rico, where you can actually take this laser system and lay out the entire space with lasers and see all the walls and everything. You actually can take a BIM design and lay it out in the space. It's crazy. So think about, what will you bring to the table that nobody else can do? Y'all heard Chris talk about that, right? He talking about, I got this big warehouse. Yeah, sure, we can store it for you. And he's paying for his space and bringing in extra money and providing additional service to a client that nobody else is doing. I thought about that. I was like, you know what? Because now that I'm bidding more Disney work, I'm like, what am I gonna do with all this FF&E? They were like, oh, we warehouse it. I'm like, this guy over here, he's like, no, we'll take it. You gonna pay us, but we'll take it. That's a differentiator.
Yes.
Prefabrication versus plus modular. Maybe okay, so I know some of you are not local. Raquel, you local here? Yeah. Okay, so Edward's not, but Finfrock. Anybody heard of Finfrock? Yeah. Huge out there in Apopka. I remember when they were small. They're huge now. I remember when they were just a concrete company. Now they're a GC. I remember when they used to just supply panels for parking garages. Now they're building multifamily homes with their prefab system. Talking about differentiator. Nobody else can get it built fast as us, because during design, we're doing fabrication. And then all of a sudden, we just cut your schedule and construction down in half. Because we just gonna load up some trucks and just erect a set. I don't know, anybody had an erector set? I may be dating myself, but you're like, what is an erector set? It's kind of like Legos, but advanced Legos. Yes, sir.
A little more definition on prefab and
Yeah. So prefabrication is how you're able to erect something or put something together before it hits the site. So instead of some people are starting to use the storage containers now as well, right? Especially for ADUs, which is accessory dwelling units. Like if somebody want to put something smaller in their yard to drive additional income, put other family in, people are doing a lot more of that kind of stuff now because it takes less time to actually erect it. It's already prefab. Just think about a trailer home, right? Trailer home, you just roll it out there, put it on blocks, hook up the utilities, done, out of there. It's kind of like that, right? So think about why that is advantageous for certain clients. Why? Time. So if time's important to a client, maybe something like that is more important than them. So maybe think about it like this, Glenn. You receive some furniture, and instead of having to unbox it, uncrate it all, put all of it together and assemble it on site, maybe you have a way to do it in a warehouse and just bring it out there one day, you done. Now that client is able to, somebody always calling me. Now that client is able to possibly, if you are a resort, open sooner. That may impact their income because now you provide a solution to get their space open faster. Make sense? Community engagement. We're starting to see this becoming a larger and larger piece in business today, social responsibility, where now people are buying from people that are more socially responsible. And so it's becoming more and more a piece of why especially millennials are choosing certain things. It's not, okay, I can get water from anywhere, but now I see you're doing it safely, or that you're making sure that everything is sustainable. You're ensuring that you're not eliminating waste improperly. All of these things become more and more important. So now you see corporations marketing those things. So how are you involved in the community? What are things you're doing that show that you are invested in the community and you're not just out here trying to make money? Are y'all with me? So I know my wife, was this your idea or somebody else? I forget. You remember when we did Adopt the Street? That was your idea? Okay, y'all clap it up for my wife. We did Adopt the Street. What was the UCP? So there's a school called UCP, and they mostly help children with special needs. And so we would go volunteer there. And then I sat on some boards, and you're like, I don't have time for all that. I understand, maybe not right now, right? But over time you will, but you have to say, okay, what's our strategic plan to also maybe have some type of community participation? Why? It's a differentiator. And most likely it's gonna bring more work to you. You're like, Michael, how do you know so many people? Because I got involved in the community, right? So me sitting on the chamber board, I get to meet some of everybody. And so oftentimes they will say, Mike, hey, we have an opportunity you want to look at. They're going to call me first. So how can your name be spoken out more? All right. Safety, QC certifications, all of those things help you to separate. Transparent reporting. It's a differentiator. What do you mean by that? So if I have a client and they are not sure they can trust you, but you show and demonstrate you're going to be transparent with all your books, it's a differentiator. Why? You just earned trust. I'm going to show you all the ins and outs, whatever cost, especially you do a cost plus contract. I'm going to just show it. No big deal. I just want to earn my fee. I'm not trying to hide. Some people say, well, why do that when you can make a little more? Now you trying to hide. Right? And guess what? Contractors have a reputation for trying to hide stuff. Oh, I can't get no help. I can't get one amen in the quiet church this morning. Transparent, it's a differentiator. That means you're not like everybody else. So I want you to start thinking about what are some things, these are examples, there are more. What are some things you can incorporate into your strategic plan? Maybe you won't do this today. Maybe you won't have this done by the end of the year, but put it in your plan that by this year, we're going to implement this, and this is how we're going to implement it. Yes, yes?
Yes.
All right, where will you look for a client? What's my time? What time? Okay. Where will you look for a client? Okay. So I've listed some organizations here. You have to look them all up because I don't remember all the acronyms. But at least half of these we participated in as a member. It was like, man, that seemed expensive. Over time, you'll find that you'll end up being able to capture the ROI, but you have to have a way to network with other people to build what? Relationships. Because I don't care how many ads you put out there. Some people think, well, I'm gonna just do some marketing, some advertising. But guess what? There's nothing better than them actually getting to know you, talk to you, touch you appropriately, of course. There's nothing like them being able to shake your hand, putting a face with a name, just like yesterday with Carla. Carla said, oh, I remember you from. Now, guess what? If you was at home or you was at work all the time, how often that would have happened? Now, that's a second touch. So we learned in class, right? How many touches it normally takes in order to gain a customer? Up to 12, right? Anywhere from 5 to 12 touches before you actually gain a customer. So that means it's going to take what? Time. It doesn't happen overnight. So a lot of times, since they got to see you over and what? Over and over and over again before they decide to even buy. Are you with me? So AHOA. So Rico, AHOA is the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. So when I wanted to get into hospitality, and I said, hey, I want to go get into the hotel. So now I'm spreading out. I didn't just stay in schools. Now I'm looking at all the different markets I wanted to get into, right? This was the first place I went, AHOA, because 67% of hotel owners are Asian American. It may be higher than that now, but it's a high percentage. And I was like, well, why not be there? And then when I met there, I met a guy that's there, and he became a friend. And I was uncomfortable because it's a totally different culture. When you're dealing mostly Indian, totally different culture. And I was like, man, I was out of my comfort zone. Like, when you go to their conference, all the women is dressed in their attire. Everybody. Right? All the food is Indian food. No fried chicken. No collard greens. Right? The culture is totally different. But when you recognize, how did I break in an industry like that? They will not buy from you, especially as a black man, unless they know you. You got to build relationships. Everybody shout relationships.
Relationship.
So FHEA, that was another one. ASHE, that was another one. All these two on the healthcare side. So when we looked at breaking into hospitals, and I started doing hospital work, we was a part of these associations. And so if you don't find a way to network within these organizations, like that's what they do all the time. They're there to collaborate, meet with other people, right? You will limit your growth. So when you start talking about your marketing strategy and how you're going to get out there and build relationships, I want you to start identifying where you're going. So it's going to start and be led by the market you identify you're going to next. Are y'all with me? So you're gonna select, and I want you all to be writing this down. What's the next market you're gonna enter? Okay, so I want you to start thinking about that, right? What's the next market, and then what association could you leverage in order to expand? Okay, all right. So I talked about this a little bit, problems and solutions, identify their pain point. Do they just need competitive pricing, right? So that was Disney, all right? Do they need competitive pricing? Do they have too much work? They need a solution or GC. Y'all, now listen, I didn't give Disney my notes, but they actually stated every point that's on here. Every point that's under problems and solution, identify pain points. Alex said exactly every one of these points. Every one of them. Need a GC to provide more. Didn't he say that? Yeah. Well, the services. Being solution oriented. All right. So that's the S. The A is access. Identify the access. What's the easiest way for them to navigate working with you? So do you have an easy path? Some of us on our websites, people can't find out how to contact you. You have a contact form and it goes into a dark hole. Anybody has one of those, right? They put in their information. You probably don't even see the email, right? And if you do see the emails, it could be a day later. What's the easiest way to contact you, Raquel?
Call.
How? Call what? What else? Just tell me. What's the easiest way I can access you?
Just call me.
Call you. Okay, what number I'm gonna call? The company number. If I call your company number, let's try. With my phone. Let's call. Let's see. If I call you right now, she's like, dang, why you put me on the spot? Okay. If I call you right now, can I get a hold of you?
I'll text right now.
You gonna text me right back? Okay.
So I'm in the meeting.
I'm in the meeting. Okay, so think about that. This is a great case study. Right? Think about that. How would that make you feel as a consumer? Class. Hold on. I'm asking. How would that make you all feel? This case that we do this in class. How would that make you feel as a consumer? You call somebody you ready to do business with, you get a text message. I'm in the meeting. Come on. That's not why I called you?
I want to
I
hear from a
told
person.
people I don't do business over text message.
Okay.
I want to hear from a person. I want to talk to a
I want to hear from a person. I want to talk to a person. So think about it. How much business could you actually lose because of that? So,
Oh, I'm sure of it.
okay. And you're like, well, I ain't want him no way. All right. But just stay with me to my point. So my wife and I, we remember when we had Ring Central and we had an automated system because we hated picking up the phone when it was just spam callers back then, or it was people that just sales call, that unsolicited sales call. I'm like, I don't have time to be answering the phone and somebody I don't want to talk to. But over a period of time, what we did, we actually just put an inexpensive receptionist. They're going to answer the phone, even if it's somebody we don't want to deal with or talk to. Why? And I remember back then we had less complaints about being accessible. So when you're talking about taking maybe your customer service up to the next level, maybe that's not something that's feasible right now,
Right, right.
but that should be part of your strategic plan. You follow what I'm saying? So people now get a different feel for your business because every time they call, somebody picks up the phone. Does that make sense? Like, even anybody had software problems before and you got to dial all these different, that's aggravating. Prompts, it's aggravating. So yeah, it's helpful for their business, but for a customer experience, it's horrible. But guess what? You probably not $1 billion company right now where you can just say, oh, we don't care. So I want you to start thinking about how accessible are you? Is it easy to, is your company easy to navigate? Is your website easy to navigate? Right? Client portal. This is also a differentiator where you can have a portal for your clients to get more information, access to their documents. What it would be like to have a client portal where they can actually see progress photos of the job and not even have to be there, where they can see updates of what's going on and not have to question whether you just running off with their money, right? Access. Okay, I want you to start thinking about that. All right, educate. Let's talk about educate. Think about how you can educate your clients even more, whether it's website blogs, newsletters, podcasts, lunch and learns, referrals. There's so many examples. You can use different market trends, supplier chain issues. Let's say, for instance, right now, anybody remember when drywall went on allocation, or anybody remember when it was hard, especially coming out the pandemic, to get certain materials, mechanical units? Like, being able to educate your client, like, hey, it's going to maybe take longer. Here in the state, I don't remember, what was it, a year and a half ago? I know Sensuela probably would know. We couldn't get trusses. Sensuela, you remember that? We couldn't get trusses for like the longest period of time. And right, I think some areas it was longer than that. It was like, yeah. And so think about how you could use something like that to educate, right? You can educate a client and say, okay, y'all, this is something that's happening in the industry. If you're trying to build a house, anytime soon, think about planning ahead because it's taking 8 months to get trusses. Or maybe you're the type of GC that has a differentiator. Oh, well, we'll build them on site. Or maybe we'll try metal trusses in lieu of wood trusses because if time is critical for you. So now you have some differentiators. That makes sense? Also, I want you to think about, workforce availability, new technology, new products. And because all of these things help you to empower your client so they can make better decisions. So when Alec was talking about how you can provide more information to help them make decisions, to help them be better, see, that's a differentiator. That gets you more work, and they want to continue to work with you because they know you're providing that type of resource. So when you start educating your clients, think about this way, because I can hear some of you saying, Michael, that's just more work. But guess what? We are in a digital age where I can write probably 12 different blogs, 12 different emails within 5 minutes with the help of AI. Like real quick. So now all of a sudden now I'm using technology to give me my time back. So start thinking about that. Or maybe you hire a VA or something like that that's inexpensive, somebody that can help you with that. Put that together. Help me plan out all my newsletters for the year. And you maybe only need somebody for a couple of days. I'm telling you, if they know AI, they know whatever chat you want to use, probably in a day, they can plan out a whole year worth of content, whether it's blogs, whether it's newsletters. And now all of a sudden you just need a platform to schedule it, and it goes out to all your clients all the time.
Yes.
Somebody say game changer.
Game changer.